Welcome back to the Pit Stop Ranch. This is my pocket 1-ton. It is a 1970 C10 with the drivetrain from a 1998 dually crew cab in it. If you look at some of my earlier videos, there I have a big long video just talking about this truck, outlining what it is and why I built it. It is acting up. It is not running properly, and it is a little down on power. It's missing, and if you really get on it, it backfires. So I'm going to go through and try and diagnose what the heck's going on, and hopefully you guys get something out of this. When I first got this thing up and running, or when I was getting ready to get it up and running, I had unlocked the security feature because I wasn't going to use the stock steering column. Basically had the objective of making it so you can't tell what it is until you really know what you're looking at, or unless you really know what you're looking at. However, I did keep important features, being able to diagnose it with a using so to that end, I got a OBD2 port down here, hidden down here. You can't see it, casual observation, but it's observation, but it's down here. And I picked up HP tuners so I can get in, unlock it, and disable the security and turn off a few other features that I did not want with this truck to run, for this truck to run. And which means that it's got the stock computer in here for the Vortec 454, and I can get in here and use HP Tuner to look at what's going on. So the first step on this diagnosis is going to be to look at, see if there's any pending codes or anything. Now, this is the Dakota Digital dashboard, and it has it does have a check engine light, or the lights up on Speedo. It is not lighting up, so it's not detecting anything insane. As a result, I can get in and look at what is going on using the scan abilities with my laptop. And hopefully we can get some information this way. What I have here is basically telling me that it's not detecting anything specifically wrong. See, not that you can see that terribly well, but it's all of the codes stored in it are the ones because I turned off those sensors because I'm not using them. I can feel a miss with this engine right now. Hopefully you just heard that backfire. Alright. If you don't know, there's a Schrager valve on your fuel rail, and you can measure your fuel pressure there. Not getting a perfect seal on there, so some's leaking, a little bit's leaking by, but it's reading 47, which I think is within normal parameters. I already picked up a fuel pressure regulator because I'm kind of suspicious of the one I got. Now, something interesting I'm seeing on here, as well it's running, I got fuel system number 1 status SAE it was reading CL fault, or closed loop fault. So I'm going to get online and do some research and figure out what exactly that means. According to a forum, a Chevy forum, 58 to 62 psi is the desired psi. I think I'm going to review the shop manual and go back and confirm a lot of this stuff. So, fuel pressure regulator is still the most likely culprit for what's going on. So I'm going to go ahead and confirm a few things, and then probably go back and do that. Okay, we went ahead and grabbed the book and found the right section. This is for sequential multi-point fuel injection, which is what this truck is. Fuel pressure is supposed to be between 55 and 62. Okay, I pressurized the system, and it's there, but it's low. It's 24 psi. Now, the reason why I started thinking it was a fuel pressure regulator is if I turn the ignition on and wait, it doesn't want to start, like there's no fuel. So as a result, part of the startup procedure for this vehicle has been turn the ignition on, wait 2 seconds, then hit it. It fires right off consistently. Okay, there's a step in here I can't do because I can't mock the test, or maybe another way to put it, I don't really want to, which is to block the fuel pressure return and then run the same test again and then see what the pressure is. Now I think I've been able to get away with but if I were to do that and it was above a certain value, then it goes to replace fuel pressure regulator. So I'm pretty sure we're on the right track. So the next step is going to go ahead and replace the fuel pressure regulator and then drive the vehicle, see what we get. Okay, it's been a couple days since we did our initial diagnosis on this. In that couple days, we've had a lot of weather. So finally got the chance to come back and work on this and go ahead and swap out the fuel pressure regulator. Fuel pressure regulator is hiding back down there somewhere. So in order to get there, what we need to do is we need to pull the upper intake manifold and the ignition module. And so that's what we're going to do now. Easier to get off. Okay, this is the port where it goes. And the interesting thing is, here is the old one, and it does not have no ring on the little snout, and the new one does. It almost looks like, well, no ring probably should go there. So I'm wondering if that's a contributing factor to the problem. So I'm going to go ahead and see about getting this thing in. Okay, that was in there, and I wasn't sure what it is. It's a little screen on it, and it's got a rubber. So the other thing's sealed into there. This got O-ring on the tip of it and a screen built into it. And the old one does not have a screen built into it. It just has an O-ring. Okay, finally got it seated and the clip in and it sealed. So it was a non-trivial task. Real pain in the butt. Unfortunately, the other camera battery died, and I was just more interested in getting it on than filming. But it is in and on, and we are ready to reassemble, which of course is disassembly in reverse. I'll kind of save you that boring element to it, but we'll go ahead and button this up and move on to the next thing. Well done. I went ahead and pressurized the system before putting it together to keep an eye out for leaks. And then I also just checked that, and there's still some pressure on the rail, not a lot, though it seems to be holding better than the old fuel pressure regulator. So, we're in pretty good shape, I think. Well, we got a check engine light now, which we didn't have one before. Seems to be running. Then we're going to shut down and check, see what the check engine, what the code is before we go for a drive. Okay, I'm getting an error on throttle position sensor, so I'll check that connector. Okay, we're looking green across the board. These readings for the two sensors are about 3 times what they were before, so we're running quite lean. Everything looks good here. We're going to go ahead and go for a run around the block, because we might have fixed our problem. We are recording data logging. Here we go for a run around the block. See what you guys see how this goes. Nice long, extra long trip around the block. Lots of variable driving. I never went wide open throttle because the more open throttle I went, more you heard it popping and bagging. I hope. Hopefully it comes through on the camera. But it was popping and bagging and not good. Not happy. So. Anyways, I'm going to pull it into the yard, shut her down, pop the hood so we can start cooling her down while I review the data I just collected. Alright, just took it for a test drive, and it's still running like poop, just as bad as it was before. My old pressure regulator probably wasn't bad, so I got another issue somewhere. I got a sensor that is slowly dying, slowly failing, or something's loading up. And I might have one cylinder that's just dead. So I think the next step is I need to make sure that the engine itself is fine. Definitely a bunch of sign on the one side where the PCV valve is, where there's getting plenty of blow-by. Plenty of oil being pushed out, so, and oil in the intake manifold. So I think next step is, once this is cooled down a little bit, I know you're supposed to do it hot, but it's as long as everything is the same, is I want to go ahead and do a compression check on all the cylinders, make sure I don't got a dead hole. Now it's not really missing on every single hit, it's only missing occasional. It's not every rotation every time, it's missing occasionally, and when you get on it with power, it doesn't have much power. Other thing it could be is a bad injector, and could be a bad sensor somewhere. However, if it's a bad sensor somewhere, it should throw a code, because it would say, you know, voltage too high, voltage too low, something funny about this. And it's not seeing that, it's not saying that. So it could be also the computer's kind of not happy, and it could be something as simple as a ground somewhere. I could have a ground somewhere that it really needs, that came loose or corroded, isn't grounding as well as it should or could. Okay, so we're back on C10, and continuation of this video. It's now been going a couple weeks now. A week, a little over a week. I don't know. You get the idea. So, last we left off, I replaced the fuel pressure regulator, and it didn't make any difference. And before, it was when it was idling, it looked like the O2s were reading rich. Now the narrowband O2s, the difference between rich and lean is very small, but they're running at 0.9 volts. Those O2 sensors, they operate between 0 and 1 volt, and 1 volt's rich, 0 volt's lean. Before we did the pressure regulator, it was reading at idle, it was reading below 0.5 volts. So it was running a little on the lean side. Well, now it's running 0.9 volts. So at idle, it's rich. Not terribly rich, but it is rich. So I'm thinking more of an ignition problem than a fuel delivery problem. I haven't even looked at the data yet. That's right. Right there, I'll take it into the house, get a little comfortable, and start thumbing through the data set and look at throttle position and a bunch of stuff. But right now, I'm wondering if I got this ignition issue. It's not throwing a code. So, two possibilities. I got some bum injectors, and that's what's going on. Or I got some reason it's inconsistently getting spark. So ignition module, coil, distributor, cap and rotor. Now the cap and rotor was replaced not too long ago, but when I had the cap off, I was looking at it, and a little bit more corrosion for as relatively fresh and new as that cap is. Not that old. So food for thought. Yeah, so yeah, I'm off to check the data and see where we're at. Wish me luck. Okay, so I reviewed the computer data, and I did not see anything that jumped out to me, which really what that means is there isn't something so overtly obvious that my amateur eyes grabbed me. It means that it isn't obviously like low fuel pressure. At least I don't think it is. Now, I don't know that for sure until I can plug in a fuel pressure tester to the Schrader valve on the rail and sit there and rev it up and do a bunch of stuff to see if the fuel pressure in the rail drops as more fuel is demanded. But the O2 sensor, once it went to closed loop, got warm enough, ran long enough, and it went to closed loop, the O2 sensors jumped around the way they're supposed to, lean rich, lean rich, lean rich, lean rich, because they are narrow band O2 sensors. So it isn't obviously like one hole is not firing every time. it's missing every now and then, you know. So at both at idle and under acceleration. Under load, the loads up and kind of backfires a little bit, which that can be an ignition timing situation. That could be an ignition in general situation. You're getting a weak spark at one of the spark plugs. It could also be a case where one of the injectors is not functioning properly. One or more of the injectors are not functioning properly. Now the donor truck that the drive chain came out of, when I bought it in 2005, I bought it from the original owner, and they had just replaced 3 of the 8 injectors. And the rest were all stock. So we have 5 original injectors and 3 replacement injectors. Now my impression was the work was done at the dealership, so he used OE parts. So they should be all equally as good as far as initial quality goes. That doesn't mean that one of those 5 original ones isn't falling apart. It just so what we want to do now is I want to pull the spark plugs and take a look at them and get a feel for if they're all burning even, then it's probably not an injector problem. If I have some that are carboned up rich and I got others that are super clean, like they're lean, that means that the computer's trying to compensate for bad injectors, the ones that show lean, by richening up the other ones that are showing fat, showing rich. So that's the next step. I also, while I got the spark plugs out, I think I want to go and do a compression test. I'll need to disconnect the coil so I don't get any sparks. Thinking about seeing if I can turn off the fuel pump so it doesn't turn on, so that I'm not also injecting fuel at the same time. We'll see about that one. Well, that right there explains a lot. Looks like we got a bunch of oil. It's burning fine when it burns, but we got a bunch of oil buildup there. And so we got yeah, okay. So I think we're onto something. It is an ignition problem. It is definitely an ignition problem. That is number 2. Okay. That one looks pretty good. A little cruddy, but pretty good. Looking at these spark plugs, gaps are inconsistent. They look pretty worn and tired, and some of them are completely goobered beyond recognition. So the actual ash on them, some are a little on the lean side, not terrible. Others aren't. There's no real rich ones. The spread between rich and lean isn't there. So I don't think it's an injector problem. So I'm going to go ahead and toss a set of fresh brand new plugs in this thing, and that might have been the problem all along. We have our new spark plugs. We'll go through installation. Of course, you already know that, so it's no big deal. First, I would like to go ahead and I want to do a compression check. So, my compression check, I want to make sure, I want to avoid getting fuel in the system, and I want to avoid sparking any fuel that gets into the system. So I'm going to go ahead and pull fuel pump relay, which is this one right here. We'll do that. That way the fuel pump cannot come on. Now, I believe there's a way to get into HP Tuner and turn it off and turn it back on for this sort of testing, but that's kind of the old mechanics trick to it. So the next step is I'm going to go ahead and disconnect the distributor, coil, all that good stuff, which should be just buried back here. The coil is actually disconnected from the ignition system, and the distributor is disconnected, or the distributor is disconnected from the coil. Yeah, 175. It's still at 140. So that's a pretty big deviation. And it's 20%, which is a lot. 10% is considered acceptable. 20% is a lot, but I'm not going to worry about it. Memory serves, that's about what it was 2 years ago when I first got this thing on the road. So next, I think I'll just go ahead and put the new plugs in. Backing it out, it's already running a lot better. So yeah, that's fix the problem. Well, it was a bit of a circuitous path. Lessons learned is pull the spark plugs to begin with. I wasn't expecting to be that rough. I'm trying to remember when they were last replaced, if they've ever been replaced. Well, I've owned this engine for the last nearly 20 years. I think I must have done it at some point. I know that I did the cap rotors and spark plug wires, but I don't know if I ever did the spark plugs. Probably did, but it was a long time ago. And really, honestly, I don't think that many miles. I bought this at 165,000 and it's got maybe 180 on it now, so regardless, we had some bad spark plugs. Now we got some good spark plugs in there. Went ahead and got your traditional copper core, because you know what, if we have the same thing happening again in 20,000, it's just saved. You know, I can put another set of spark plugs in here if I haven't pulled this engine and put a rebuilt one in its place. So anyways, there you go. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe. Until next time, have a spark plug-tastic day.